Namaste. India's supply chain and logistics sector is one of the largest globally. However, despite its size and criticality to economic growth, India's supply chain faces several barriers to growth. Often, what's blamed for the logistics sector lagging is the high logistics cost pegged at 14% of India's GDP. But is this accurate? Let's examine this together in today's episode of Logistically Speaking. India boasts one of the largest supply chain and logistics sectors globally, with an industry valuation of $215 billion, showing a robust growth trajectory at a compound annual growth rate or CAGR of 10.5%. Despite its substantial size and pivotal role in economic development, the Indian supply chain encounters various impediments hindering its expansion. These challenges include an imbalanced logistics model mix, elevated indirect costs, fragmented infrastructure and network, and a restrained embrace of technology. A joint report by Arthur D. Little and the Confederation of Indian Industry (CII) underscores the vulnerabilities inherent in India's supply chain network, stressing the imperative for transformative measures. According to the report, logistic cost in India stands at 14% of GDP compared to the global average of approximately 8%, creating a competitiveness gap of $150 billion for India, which could increase to $50 billion by 2030. The report recommends that to optimize the logistic and warehousing network, India needs to reduce logistic costs to 7 to 8% of GDP. This can be achieved by optimizing the logistic model mix, with roads constituting 25 to 30%, railways comprising 50 to 55%, and waterways accounting for 20 to 25%. It also suggests reducing indirect costs to 20 to 25% and expanding cold chain storage infrastructure across India. All this talk about high cost of logistics in India is a topic of ongoing discussion, and recent statements have sparked a debate. The first statement from Business Standard on September 17, 2022 highlights the launch of the National Logistics Policy by the Prime Minister with the aim of reducing the logistic cost to single digits. The second statement, dated May 22, 2022 from the Maritime Gateways, indicates that India's logistic cost has decreased to 8.35% of the GDP, according to a study by the National Council of Applied Economic Research or NCAER. This challenges the long-standing belief that the logistic cost was consistently at 14% of GDP. On a macro level, if we analyze, the 14% would have worked out the logistic industry at $420 billion as our economy is at $3 trillion. Had this been true, the number of bigger sized companies in this sector should have been huge, but unfortunately, we have only one company which has a valuation of above $1 billion and less than 20 listed companies, again all at a valuation of less than 1500 crore, and maximum number of Indian logistic companies are at MSME level. The discrepancy between these statements raises question about the accuracy of the information and the methodologies used to calculate logistic cost. The concern is not merely academic, as the declaration about high logistic costs have positioned India unfavorably compared to developed economies, hindering its potential as a major manufacturing and production hub for the world. Despite India's favorable factors such as stable leadership, low-cost labor and high-tech talent, the repetitive talk about high logistic costs at 14.4% poses significant challenge and a deterrent in promoting India as an attractive option for international market and on our aspiration to be a major manufacturing hub for the world. The discrepancy between the perceived 14% and the recent study's 8.35% prompts a critical examination of the components contributing to this cost. Road transportation, often criticized for being a major contributor to high logistic costs, deserves special attention. In contrast to developed economies with logistic costs around 8%, the disparity in earning between Indian and international truckers is significant. This stark difference in the economic viability of the trucking professions add complexity to this issue. A deep dive into B2B supply chain reveals a disconnect between the national average and individual company logistic costs. While the national average is purportedly at 14%, many companies talk about this being at 6% and they aim to bring this below 5 to 6%. In fact, many of the manufacturers even mention their logistic cost is at 3 to 4% on private discussions. The internal studies of many international logistic companies and association put this at 8%. All this raises doubt about the accuracy of the 14% figure and suggests a need for a closer examination of the research methodology of the report. Distinguishing between full truckload and less than truckload, that is LTL or part load transportation, reveals that approximately 80% of the total transportation in India falls under FTL. Despite the diverse modes of transportation, road transport accounts for about 80%, utilizing small and large trucks with varying payload. The cost breakdown for FTL cargo, including raw material transportation before and after production, along with the warehousing storage, does not exceed 4% of the material's invoice value for most of the company. In the case of LTL or part load, where additional complexities such as first mile, middle mile, last mile and multi-transshipment exist, the cost may double but typically remains under 8%. Even with the inclusion of higher cost transportation modes like air, sea and train, the overall logistic cost should not surpass 7 to 8% by reasonable estimates. In conclusion, the discrepancy between the widely accepted 14% logistic cost and recent studies indicating a lower figure of 8.35% warrants a thorough investigation into the methodologies used for this calculation. The discrepancy could be attributed to misinterpretation, inaccurate calculations, or a lack of alignment with the ground reality of logistic operation in the country. This discussion invites insights, debates, and further exploration into the nuances of India's logistic landscape, with the consensus that there is room for improvement in reducing the logistic cost for the country's economic benefit. Well, thank you for watching this video till the end. Do hope this podcast will help you critically view the logistic cost. Look forward for your comments and feedback. See you next week.